Alright. Hey everyone. This is going to be an interesting video, I think, because I'm gonna kind of like rant a little bit about an idea that I've been pondering that may be really good for Revulsion, but it also means kind of a fairly big change in direction. Well, it is and it isn't a big change in direction for how the game actually flows. Now, and also too, I'm gonna like run through and kill a bunch of bad guys using some of the more rare magical weapons from like later on in the game. Let me grab a couple more. Let's see. Gotta have that hammer. We have the minigun. We have the warhammer. Uh, you guys can already see these with a firebomb launcher. Death orbs. Oh my god, that's like so weird. I'm actually thinking of doing a like an Easter, like for Easter, like make this into a bunch of eggs. So this is the death orb, and you. It's what a weird gun. Oh god, there's like body parts everywhere. So I just recently released a patch for the game, and I know that I'm trailing off for a second, but bear with me for a sec. I recently released a patch that was earlier today that was like performance enhancing. Like I went through and optimized a lot of stuff, figured out what was causing a lot of performance issues. There's still a lot more that can be done and probably will be done though. For example, there's polygon issues that I don't know if I'm ever really going to be able to fix this, but working with Magica Voxel, there is actually like each one of these pixels is actually a polygon. Uh, and it kind of splits things up, and there ends up being a lot more polys than you would normally have. Like each one of these floor tiles is 3,000 polys or something like that. Um, eh, you know, it, there's stuff like that that causes performance issues. The character models and stuff like that. Voxels are definitely like a lot of people think when they see voxels, they think, "Oh wow, I should be able to run this on a toaster." That it couldn't be further from the truth. Actually, Minecraft, like even in the case of Minecraft, Minecraft has surprisingly high system requirements for what it is. Like you look at these games and they look simple, but voxels are actually very wasteful. Um, you end up with a lot higher poly counts. Like hand created, handcrafted models will always be king for optimization. So yeah, there's a lot of room for optimization. Anyway, I still went through and I did a lot of performance improving things and fixed some shit up. Got a flamethrower. The kids love this one. Um, but with all that said, I want to shoot an idea for you guys to kind of mull over with me because this is going to actually have a really big effect on how the game flows from now on. So, you know that when you go up to the fast travel point for the first time, you walk up to it. All right. And you'll see, sanctuary, and then gate security will be the other place that you can go to, and then you have to you go to gate security, and then you run around in gate security doing whatever. Oh, there's a loading screen now, by the way, if you didn't know about that. Now you know, because it's in the video. I videoed it. Oh god, I've got to compile shaders. I hope my voice isn't like completely fucking up right now. Why is it do this? I don't know. But it seems like it has to do it every single time I load the level. There's probably just some stupid setting somewhere. But anyway, it'll be done in a second. So like you would run into like this area, right? And you'd kill a bunch of stuff, and then you would eventually find Soldier's Overlook, and then you can kind of like go back through and explore that way and like find all kinds of stuff. And essentially what you end up with are these really really big levels, and there's like ton of stuff to explore. and things like that. That's the current flow right now. And this is cool, but I think that it has it's cool and it's original, but I think that it has some interesting problems with it that bug me a bit. For one, level design like this alright, it's finally done compiling shaders, tends to be very tiresome. I've mentioned a lot of the flaws of the design, not necessarily flaws, but I'd say consequences of this design style. I wouldn't necessarily call them flaws. The consequences of the design style for Revulsion are that the game becomes very tiresome, it's very challenging, players die, they feel like they have to go back and redo the same area many, many, many times. And it becomes, it's very taxing, because there's also a little bit of memorization. I noticed that when I watched SD play, he played up to about Soldier's Overlook, and he did this whole entire section here, and then he forgot that there's a door here that he needed to go into, so that he'd be able to finally go through this area and everything like that. It required a lot of his energy. It kind of, it was very taxing for him, and he didn't just continually get addicted and keep playing. Like, there were too many points in which he had an opportunity for his brain to shut off and to be like, okay, it's not necessarily getting bored, but I'm not being drawn in anymore. Like, this is the energy required to continue to play is greater than the energy required to figure out something else that I want to do, right? And that's one of the reasons why the design of a lot of games focuses on just continually bringing the player into very simple and varied sequences that keep you going, so that the energy to continue to play is less than the energy to figure out something else to do. I know that's kind of a weird way to think about it, and this is actually the first time I've described it this way, but I actually kind of like this example. Well, that's actually fine, I think, in a lot of ways, because there are a lot of people who want to play stuff that's, this is different. This is different than the other games that I am currently competing with right now are Strafe and Dusk, and they are very different games from this, because you have these big levels and you can kind of just traverse through them, and like if you find this secret over here, this entire section over here is a secret area basically, in order to get the Icarus rocket launcher blueprint, right? So, and this design style can be declared a very similar style to Dark Souls. And in fact, this is basically a first-person shooter Dark Souls as it stands right now. Alright? But, with that said, I have been considering the idea of going a little bit more Diablo and a little bit more Warframe. This sort of different flow to the way the levels are. Instead of having these big levels, I do lots of smaller levels and stitch them together. It's very true for Diablo. In the case of Diablo, there's always those areas that are the same every time you come to it, but then you will run into tiles that are like sections of like T-junctions and hallways and cool like areas, but it's kind of randomized which ones you'll ever get to, and like there's still a little bit of handcrafted design that goes on within those spaces, but overall, I think actually Strafe does this to some extent, except in my game, it would end up feeling more like little level chunks. So like this area right here would be a tile. This whole area would be one tile. And you would find the exit, and then you would go to another area, and you would have like, you would be in an area like this, right? So, and then you find the exit. You would go to another area, which would probably be like this area right here, like cut out of the middle of this, right? And then you'd find the exit to that, and then it would take you to the ending part where you'd fight a boss or something, and then you'd move on. And then you go to the next spot, like a slightly harder battle or something. So like, let me try taking a look at like another one of the areas. This is the undertunnels. Okay, so like, oh, good. The shaders aren't that much. Okay, it's already done. And it's the same thing with this. You see how like the undertunnels is this massive map. Well, one of the things I've noticed, especially in the undertunnels, is that players become very taxed once it comes time to kind of head down to this area right here. Is when you start. It starts getting kind of like taxing to the player because now you have multiple different ways to go. There's a little bit more memorization. It poses a lot of different things, and you're very likely to die in this area down here. All right. So what's the new area going to be like? Or at least what's the new design going to be like? Well, let's see if I can explain this correctly. So now you see this is the original list where you see like this is all the fast travel points that are currently set up. Well, what if I go more in this direction like this? So you see how like it says behind the wall and then it's like level 1 to 3, the barracks 2 to 5, the dark base, or toxin refinery 4 to 7, and like it displays like what levels what levels like the stuff that you're going to be facing will be in that area, and then I can look at undertunnels and it'll be like 10 to 13, 12 to so like each one of these is a collection of smaller levels that are stitched together that that has like a start and an end. So like basically what you want to do in order to beat the behind the wall area is you want to beat there'll be like maybe 5 or 6 tiles that you'll continually run into, and then there'll be like a start piece, an end piece, maybe a dead end that has like loot in it, maybe stuff like that. The only thing is that everything's going to be separated by level loads. So like each one of these are sort of like a basically a map, a mini level. Not terribly small. They're like medium-sized areas that you can enter from possibly multiple different locations, and you always want to find the exit, and there's always going to be at least one exit so that you can move to the next area, and it'll always be kind of a linear thing. And each time you play behind the wall, it'll be like maybe a collection of different tiles that you didn't see before. Like you'll be very familiar with this. This reminds me a lot, although I'm not trying to copy it. This is a lot like Warframe, except it's a little bit more. There's a little bit more meat to each of the tiles, basically. So what does that mean exactly? It means that like the barracks might have a couple of tiles that are unique to the barracks that are smaller. There might be there might be an interesting ending sequence that happens, or something different that you do on each one of these. Like one tile will have like a slightly harder fight at the end, or something like that. And Warpath, for example, might have like a boss fight or something like that. Actually, there should be a going through these Demon's Domain. I don't know why that isn't saved. But like wonder why it's not listing it. Oh, there's some weird stuff that happens every once in a while where like it doesn't update the UMG. Well, anyway, it's not important because it's really just more or less just to convey. It's really more or less just to convey the general flow that I'm kind of going for. So, like, you. Let's see if I can get back on track. Right, and that's basically it. And then at any point in time, I can make like a new tile and then just put it in here. So what are the drawbacks of doing it this way? The main drawbacks of doing it this way is that you'll run into the same level a lot. Like you will see the same area over and over again. There will be a little bit less feel of a handcrafted experience, but it's still going to be, it's still medium-sized levels. Like you're still going to have handcrafted design and everything like that. It's not going to be like monsters continuously spawn or anything like that. I'm still pre-placing them in by hand. I'm still doing all the same stuff. It's still generally the same exact thing, except you're beating the game in small chunks continuously. And another thing that's really nice about this is that it addresses one of the other problems where people feel like they're constantly having to redo areas. Well, you won't really have that feeling because when you die, you are only going to restart back to where you last moved into the area. So, like, there's actually more quote-unquote checkpoints in the level, and every time you die, you get all your ammo and everything like that back. Your goal is to die as little as possible, but like death will actually be a way to kind of make things a little bit easier on you if you're having a difficult time. And it still respawns everything kind of like the Dark Souls mechanics when you die as well. So like you just start over, but you're gonna start over in a smaller, medium-sized level, rather than like all the way back to this one section that's all the way over here, and you have to kind of memorize how to get to that spot that's like, maybe a couple of turns and you know what I mean? So that actually kind of addresses some of the other complaints about the game, is that is the repetition of having to fight the same three guys over and over again, whereas in this case, you're pretty likely to get to the next tile, die once, and then fight those two guys again. But then you go back and you may not even see that tile the second time you play through. Like there's less chance that you're going to be doing exactly the same thing because there's more chances that there's going to be different stuff happening each time. But like I said, that's a pretty good plus to it. And also too, it feeds you into a situation where it takes less energy to play than it does to figure out, like, I feel like playing something else, or I want to do something else. You know what I mean? So I should be able to draw the player in more effectively this way. I mean, obviously, there's a reason why this kind of formula is very popular in a lot of shooters for precisely that reason. So if I mimic that style, I might be able to actually increase player retention. In other words, it should be easier. Like the flow of the game will be like, oh, I need to do this barracks level so that I can get to the toxin refinery. Like I might even have it where you can see all of the, everything. And as you beat them, you go to the next one, right? And then it'll be kind of like a random 5 or 6 tiles that, and then you beat you finally beat the ending point. And maybe there can be like special things that you do. I don't know if I want to go that far though. I think I just want you killing stuff and finding keys and opening doors, for the most part. Like this is pretty much just me classic first-person shooter stuff. I'm not gonna have you like defending a point or anything, or nothing more than what's already there when it comes to like the power node battles and stuff. I might have you do a power node battle at the last point or something like that. if you die more than 3 times, I can make it so that like if you die more than X number of times, it just sends you back to the sanctuary. But if you die once, it just puts you right back to the last spot where you traveled from one area to the next, and that acts as sort of like a checkpoint. So like it that right there should have a really big effect on keeping you going forward and constantly moving into different situations and then redoing things a lot. You'll be revisiting the same areas a lot, but you'll also, you know what I mean? Like when you grind, you might end up doing like an area that you find that's a little bit easier to make money at or something like that. Or you might just play the same area multiple times. And then when you beat the boss, you get the level cap increase item, and then you can move to the next. You'll be able to move to the next one, the undertunnels, right? And then the undertunnel starts off from 10 to 13. You play this for a little while, you get some decent gear, you find something really cool. You come back to the sanctuary, maybe upgrade it or repair it or something like that, and then you know. Once you beat that, then you have the pipes, and there's, you know, maybe there's like a special tile in the pipes that's just unique to this one thing. But there's most of the time it's mostly going to be a lot of areas that you've seen before. Like after you play it like 2 or 3 times, you'll be kind of familiar with it, and you'll get used to like, oh, there's always going to be that one guy in the corner in the back over here. Or there's going to be that one shotgun guy that's like up on the ledge or something. You'll end up kind of getting into the motion of it. I know that this is true, especially when I was playing Warframe and stuff like that, is like after a while, once you start getting into the motion of it, you start learning the tiles, you kind of know where everything is, and it kind of creates this like flow to it. I don't know. And I don't know if that would necessarily play out the same way in this, but anyway, I know I'm going on a lot about this, and in all honesty, I could probably and very easily just continue doing exactly what I've already been doing with the, you know, the larger levels. Like, let me go to the cistern. I mean, I could probably just do the same exact thing, and there's no problem. If I just stay the course doing exactly what I'm already doing, it could work out. The thing is, though, is that like this is harder for me to add new stuff to. Like this level is done. I mean, I might add like a side section or something like that, but who's gonna even see it? Like that's the thing about this, though. Like if I go with the tile style design, where I'm stringing together maybe 4 or 5 tiles for each play session, like I can just add another tile, and like there you go. Like you might run into it, you might not. Like you never know. Like so, there's still some hurdles technically that I have to figure out in order for me to really be able to be like being able to fully figure this out. From a technical standpoint, like how exactly do I want to set up the randomization? It'll probably be really straightforward, though. It'll be like you have a start and then an exit, and then I just figure out where the start and the exit is, and then each level can have multiple starts and exits, and I just pick one or the other. And then every time you go to one, there's a list of 4 other maps, and it just picks one of those 4, and then does the same exact thing all over again. And that's really it. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about this? Like, should I just stay the course, or should I just try this out? Because I have a feeling that the I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer that it'll cause a greater degree of retention, but it'll also weather away a lot of the game's identity. But at the same time, too, there's a lot of stuff about the game that I just have to comment on. Like, getting to this area right here is actually pretty hellish, and I'm surprised that there are people who actually do manage to get all the way over here to like do this boss fight. But if you talk about that, like, look at this, you can't even really see what you're looking at because there's just so much level going on over here, right? Like, look at that. But this is actually a fairly complex area. That's probably even more complex than I would want for a tile. And there's a boss fight or a power node battle up here that's like super hard, and if you fuck up or if you don't memorize exactly what you're doing, like, this shit is pretty hardcore. You'll end up spawning back down here again, and you'll have to figure out how to get back up here. And you know, this area is tough. Like, you will be fighting the same 5 guys, because if you die up here multiple times, you're doing the same exact shit, you know, a second time. Whereas if I break everything up into separate pieces, basically what'll happen is you do this one tile once, you survive once, you reach the door, it takes you to the next tile, and then maybe there's this fight. And then if this fight kills you over X number of times, it takes you back to Sanctuary, you lose your shit, you know, you lose all the loot that you gained while you were doing that mission, and you can try again. And that's basically it. Like, it flows. It's not as taxing, honestly. So, all right. With that said, I think I've gone into a pretty crazy rant about this, but I want to hear thoughts on this. Like, would you guys? One of the things that's really good about this, and this is really important, I hope whoever's watching this is watching to this point, because it's very easy for me to point this out. Maintaining this is easy. Like, I could almost do both, because it doesn't change very much when it comes to the technology. When it comes to the you know, what I have set up currently right now, like, if it turns out that this sucks and everybody hates it, I can easily just go right back and just maintain what I was already going to be doing. You know, starting like tomorrow or maybe even tonight, is just going to be straight up level design work and everything like that, and I'll be able to continue doing exactly what I was doing before if it turns out that this sucks. But if this doesn't suck, I think it'll make the experience a lot more enthralling. It'll keep you playing more, because it's gonna keep funneling you into the next thing, and you won't have those thoughts like, fuck, I'm kind of tired of like dying. You know what I mean? Like, it'll still kick your ass too. That's the other thing. Like, there's no reason why this won't be kicking your ass. In fact, this might kick your ass even more, because there are more scenarios, there are more situations that you're not ready for, because you can't just memorize where everything is. That could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. But the way this could flow is, like, you know, you might not see the same tile twice for a while, and like never even have a chance to memorize them, because there's like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 of them. Maybe some of them are bigger than others. Maybe there's traps. Maybe there's like little intricate secrets or whatever on one of them that you weren't ready for. Maybe there's a dude hiding in one of the corners in one of the tiles, but there isn't a dude there in a similar corner in one of the other maps. Like, you're not really sure. So you're going to be constantly having to, like, you know, move through and kind of grind these areas to a point before you even have a chance to, like, memorize them. And then by then you're already moving to the next tile set. And I do consider right now, Under Tunnels is a different tile set from the Dark Fortress. So Dark Fortress would be first. And I guess that's one of the other things too that's kind of true. Like, if you're a player who has grown kind of used to seeing like the same areas that are and kind of having a feel for like where the location of that area is. It's compiling shaders again. I don't even know why. Then there's that. There will be a kind of loss of like feel of location. That's probably one of the major drawbacks, is that this the way the game currently is right now, being sort of like Dark Souls, there is a tower in the distance, and that tower you will eventually get to it. But if I go more with the tiles, not so much. It's going to be more like you're just navigating continuous mazes and redoing the same areas over and over again. It's going to be a lot less about navigating really big, interesting spaces, and more about just kind of dopamine dripping you into a continuous sort of, I don't know, loot and enemy funnel. So with that said, I don't know if you guys got to see the now these are legendary level, and these enemies are man, the performance difference. The patch made a really big difference with performance. Oh yeah, by the way, I have my jetpack on. Yes, there is a jetpack. God damn. They're all out of range. Oh, come on. Oh, really? An elevator gonna make them fly away like that? Like, that's just annoying. Here, eat this. Oh, I can't go this way because... Alright, I'm gonna end it on that. Oh.